Welcome to Speak the Truth on Zoom via blackmeninamerica.com. This is our first show for the new year. And I want to turn it over to Mr. Harold Bell, who is usually our host, but we're going to flip the script on him for the first time this year. And I'm going to take over that duty, and we're going to interview him like anybody else, but we still want to turn it over to him and let him start us off. Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Gary. I just want to take time out and have a 30-second silent prayer, because we all are so blessed, man, to be in the new year. Now, where we go from here is up to God and those who are around us. But just think that there were over 350,000 U.S. residents, plus, man, and counting, that didn't make it to the new year. So we got a lot to be thankful for. And let's take 30 seconds just to say a silent prayer. Okay, back to you, Gary, and let's take.
You know, several weeks ago, there was a lot of publicity around Will Smith and Janet Hubert making amends after almost 30 years and holding a lot of things in with regard to their time on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And there's a lot of things that, terms of conversation that surround that. Let's take a few minutes to look at this and the impact of holding stuff in, particularly around this COVID time where it's really accentuated that tomorrow's not promised.
I was 21 years old.
Yeah,
You know?
I know. I know.
Everything was a threat to me.
Why was I a threat?
Not you, the world. I was so driven by fear and jokes and comedy and all of that.
Yeah, you were live. You were live.
You know.
But what you didn't realize either, that I was going through a lot at home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You didn't know. You guys didn't know. Very abusive marriage.
You know, I have children.
Yeah.
I've been divorced and going to a second marriage, and I can see now the level of pain and the level of struggle that it was for you just to show up every day. And then.
But you took all that away from me.
Mm-hmm.
With your words. You know, words can kill.
Mm-hmm.
I lost everything. Reputation. Everything. And I understand you were able to move forward, but you know those words, calling a Black woman difficult in Hollywood is the kiss of death. It's the kiss of death, and it's hard enough being a dark-skinned Black woman in this business. But I felt it was necessary for us to finally move forward.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I have blasted you to pieces.
No, it is so. First of all, thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't know that. When I've looked back now, it's obvious that you were having a hard time, and I felt like you hated me. I could not do a 30-year celebration of this show and not celebrate you. Celebrate your contribution to this show and celebrate your contribution to my life, you know, and.
Come here, you.
Okay. Wow.
Oh,
What lessons can we learn from that segment? Harold Bell.
well, let me kick this off because you know, holding grudges, man, is it's worse on the person that's holding it in. And I've been there and done that, you know, with the Sugar Ray Leonards. We done had a 30, 40 year beef going. John Thompson, Kathy Hughes, Michael Wilbon, James Brown, Don King, you know, and it's hell. I think, you know, I look and see what happened to Aunt Viv, and Will Smith, being a young guy, really didn't have a clue to what was going on because it was more of the people who were producing the show that couldn't deal with Aunt Viv because she was an educated woman, a classic balletist. I mean, she knew who she was as a Black woman. And there were times when she would tell the producers and stuff, hold it, this is not how it goes in the Black community. You can't say or do that. So she became very difficult to work with for the producing team, the directors. And that spilled over to Will Smith because he's listening to them. He's a young boy. He's listening to them. He probably was scared too. And he became a part of the problem when they let her go, man. And then Will chipped in how difficult it was for him to work with a Black woman like her. That killed her in the industry, man. That killed her. He didn't know that she was going through some personal things at home with her husband who didn't have a job. She's pregnant, and she got messed up emotionally, man. She had a nervous breakdown. Will didn't understand that. He goes on to make billions of dollars and one of the top actors in the world. And she's out there struggling. So I've been through that. You watch Sugar Ray Leonard, who didn't have 2 pennies when I took him under my wing. When he wouldn't come out the house after he came home from the Olympics and winning a gold medal. He thought that he was going to have a ticker tape parade. And guess what? The media gave him the blues for having a baby out of wedlock. He lost his self-esteem, went in the house and would not come out. And what do Jinx Morton, Dave Jacobs do? They come down to Anacostia where I'm playing tennis. And I'm saying, these guys don't play no tennis. What are they doing down here? I stop my game, go outside, and they tell me that Ray won't come out the house. I said, what you mean he won't come out the house? Well, he lost his self-esteem, Harold. He won't come out. And he's not going to listen to anyone but you. Next morning, I go over, knock on Ray's door. He opened the door with tears in his eyes. And I cussed him out. And said, man, get your gold medal on, put a suit on, and you go on with me. I had called one of my principals, Mr. Cousins, up at Harrison Elementary School. I said, get a class. I'm going to bring Ray up there after lunch and let him talk to him. That's how I got Ray out the house, how he helped regain his self-esteem, how I took him on my show every Saturday to let him co-host it, to build his stuff up. To make a long story short, to stop right there, Ray Leonard went on to become the first professional boxer to earn $100 million. Not Muhammad Ali. But guess what? The sad part, he never came back. He never came back. And that's the thing that I could go on with Kathy Hughes, with James Brown, with Michael Wilbon, with John Thompson, with Doug Williams. We don't know how to come back and help each other. But see, what saved me is that I didn't get stuck on stupid and hold a grudge. Now, the only time I dealt with them, when I saw their names in the paper, how they were doing all these great things for other people, but they didn't come back to their own hometown. They didn't come back to Kids in Trouble. They didn't come back to Inside Sports. So I done had, you know, those kind of beefs, but it helped me grow and helped me to become the man that I am because I had strong people around me. They may have been poor people. Maybe they couldn't help me financially, but they were there for me. So when you see on Viv and Will Smith, man, that's a hell of a lesson, man, that you know, that this lady had to go through. And Will been through some things himself. He's been real flawed, but he's been strong enough to survive all that. She was not strong enough to survive all that because she didn't have a support team. So I want to talk about that with, you know, you guys here on the panel. How do you feel about going into 2021 holding a grudge, and how would you have handled something like that, Gary?
I want to go to Juanita. You seem to be moved by that. I know that Janet Hubert, from what I gathered, and I saw some of this, she never worked again. But Juanita, I was watching you, and you seem to be moved. And we'll go around the horn, so to speak. But how did it impact you, and what lessons can we take away as we move into 2021?
I got emotional about it because I see this happen a lot, how we destroy each other, either through ignorance, not knowing, or through conscious participation. I really don't believe that Will knew all that he knows today about that situation. And I think that it was manipulated by his team. He only knew what they were told. But she paid a price for that. It's about, like Papa Bell, Mr. Bell said, it's about coming back home and holding each other up no matter what. You can't get the information if you don't go back to the roots. You know, I can just say what everybody is saying about my neighborhood. If I don't go outside, I don't know. It's sort of like, and also it's also like in this situation with you, Mr. Bell. Part of my tears is because I know the work you put in. I know the things you did. And you know, how willing we are to allow white media or white corporations to choose our heroes, to choose who we salute, to choose who we say was a positive contributor to our neighborhood, to our community, to us. You know, it just saddens me. I have a lot of passion, but there's just a slight little bit of naivety with me when it comes to not really absorbing things that just don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me that we still have to play the card of ignorance. You know, I didn't know. You know, sometimes it's just a question, and then as time goes on, people that really did do the legwork, you know, people who really contributed, they die off. And then we don't have anything to teach our kids. We don't have anything viable that's going to remind us historically about what this one person did, or what this, Mr. Johnson, what you do. What you do, Mr. Durham. What you do, Papa Bell. What you've done. How many books are we going to pick up and see your names? You know, they're getting ready to honor somebody that, you know, I mean, you were chosen by Muhammad Ali to be a spokesperson, to be a voice for him. But yet they want to choose other people that they want to choose without our consent. So I'm sorry, I do get emotional. I still have this strong belief that things are going to get better. I don't want to let go of that. And that's why I participate in panels like this, because one day, one voice, maybe one dream gets met within an hour or so. Yeah, that's enough out of me.
Okay, well, look, you should never have to apologize for getting emotional. That's just who you are. I want to go down to Chauncey and then come down to Brother Michael Johnson and back up to CJ. But Chauncey, you know, let folks know kind of who you are and what you're doing, and then what's your take on what we just saw?
I can relate real well. Staying grounded, I think, requires a level of maturity that when you're fresh out the blocks, you don't have it. And as it relates to Will and what he went through, He went through it at such an early age. And it's very easy to be guided. It's not so easy to lead when you're immature, you're young, and you don't understand what this world has to offer you. Being thrust out in the public eye, for me, I've almost turned introvert. COVID has been not good, but it's been an advantage for me because it allowed me to show the introverted side of me. I stay in a lot more than I used to because of being in the public eye. And you can get pushed in some very awkward positions. I listen to Harold, and I watch what goes on in the white media, and they can portray you as something that you're really not. And I want to be portrayed as who I am, not as to what the media thinks I am. So I can relate. And Grudges, the one thing about Grudges, if nobody ever learned before COVID, I think they learned during COVID. Don't hold grudges. I am so tired of my phone ringing, telling me who just died. And that includes my this morning's phone call. Somebody that in DC that I knew, and I got a call this morning that said they pulled the plug on the respirator. He died. It's almost to a point where I look at the phone to see who's calling. And I used to not answer when I didn't know who it was. Now I'm almost afraid to answer when I even know who it is. So I can't, if I held grudges, I can't hold them going forward. That's it.
Okay. Michael Johnson.
How y'all doing?
How you doing?
Great. And thank Harold for letting me join y'all. I'm from Allegheny, Virginia, and my occupation right now is community outreach. But I also run a program along with law enforcement that deals with sex trafficking, human trafficking, gang involvement, and so forth. But when we talk about grudges, and I'm looking at a little clip from Will, as a young man, I think I was misled by a lot of people that had grudges against others. And because they saw the energy in me, they pulled me over and said, well, he'll get the job done, but I don't want him to associate with so-and-so and so-and-so. So I went through that. I was part of a program called The Untouchables. Mr. Lawrence Brown, I know her, I don't know if any of y'all know him, but Larry Brown, he's one of the founders of that organization. I came in and I took it to a whole different level as far as getting name out there and getting noticed out in the public. So we went to see, we was on the Oprah Winfrey show with Colonel Powell, Bill Clinton. So we got in the circle of movers and shakers. But also as I was climbing up, I had the opportunity to do a talk show with BET. It was called For Black Men Only. And I was encouraged by the people around me that was, oh man, you're doing great. But those same people behind my back was saying, oh, he's getting too big, or he's going too far, or he shouldn't be in that position. So for me, it was a fight because my whole life has been a struggle. I grew up with 5 brothers and 1 sister, and 5 of us all the boys slept in the same bed. Now we have our own houses, and we're doing things out here in the community that's very productive. One of my brothers is a coach with the young man, Shakur Stevens, who won the silver medal in the Olympics. My other brother is a retired captain in Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, but we come out of the projects area, you know what I mean? Our parents just wouldn't allow us to get caught up in what was out there. But my mother always told me, that dog that carried that bone, he's gonna carry that bone to you because he wants you to carry that bone to someone else. So I learned that at a very young age. And I also witnessed how the system of whites and blacks, we gotta take full responsibility for what we've said and done to hurt our own people as well. It ain't just 1619 here in Virginia where, they brought slaves over and they couldn't work the Native Americans because they were susceptible to diseases and all that. So what they did was they put us against them. And that's where we are at still today. We are on that us against them and then us against ourselves. And I think that when we talk about how we relate to one another, we can't always believe what another person tells us about that person. I have friends that don't like certain people, but like I told them, those people haven't done anything to me. And until they do, I'm gonna continue to communicate with them because I'm learning as I go. And at 64 years old, I know I was supposed to have been dead at 19 or 20 on drugs or incarcerated. I just didn't make that bend in the road. But what I like to sum up and say that the job that I do and the work that I'm doing in the community over in Alexandria, I'm not inspired just to make a living. I'm inspired to make a difference, and being around my people that can give me that knowledge and that wisdom and that understanding of what holds to jump in, what holds not to jump in. I think that's a very big part of shaping me as I go forward, because I want to find a young gentleman or a young lady or some people behind me to bring them up and let them know that, you know, we can't hold grudges, because at the end of the day, if you hold that grudge, you're doing more damage to yourself. I think Harold said it earlier. You do more damage to yourself than you do to that person, which you're pushing that negative energy out toward. And again, thanks for being here, and glad I can make it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go to CJ and then we'll go to Larry. Larry joined us, and I think you probably figured out by now we're talking about Grudges, but what you missed was a short film clip of actor Will Smith and Janet Hubert making amends after 30 years. But we'll go to CJ and then we'll come down to Larry. CJ, what did you get out of the clip as we start looking towards 2021?
I mean, the main takeaway is basically just empathy is what people were missing in that situation. As Will said, like, he didn't know what issues she was going through. She was bringing to the set from home, and vice versa, what he was going through, just being so young and so famous, and, you know, all his fears and whatnot. And just had they been a little bit more patient and understanding with each other, you know, that could have been avoided. And, you know, career was destroyed and all that in hindsight. But beyond that, it's really just I mean, grudges they just don't serve you, honestly. So it's just not worth focusing on in the new year. As was mentioned before with COVID and everything, people just need to reevaluate their priorities and just focus on what's actually important with the limited time that we have, the uncertain amount of time that we have.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to you, Larry. Bring you in. Just tell us a little bit about you, and then just take yourself off mute, and you're ready to go.
Take yourself off mute, Larry. Take yourself off mute. Mute.
Lower left-hand
mute.
corner. Lower left-hand corner.
Okay.
Just click on the microphone. Take that red X off the microphone. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I like to say I'm a friend of Harold's, and I was just chiming in. I mean, thought I'd just be watching here. As far as y'all talking about grudges and things like that, I mean, I tried not to really hold grudges. There's a number of people who have crossed me, and I'm not like a lot of people. I don't really forgive them. I just don't deal with them again. And who people make their friends, that's on them. But I won't mind telling a person why I got this opinion on this person, why I don't deal with them. Because I try to be straight up and just deal with everybody fairly. But like I say, if a cat or somebody, like I say, if they cross me, I ain't got no more dealings with them. I don't care nothing about it. And that's just me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I tend to agree with you on that, because if you get caught up in that, then you've given them control. I take the power by not dealing with you, because if I don't deal with you, you have no power over me. I heard a comedy routine from comedian Cat Williams. He was talking about haters, and he says, haters hate. That's what they do. Let them do their job. And if you understand that that's what they do, you just let them hate and move on.
Yes.
And so you just don't get caught up in that.
That's right. You know, one of the things I wanted to mention, someone said, is that people be talking about, they don't like this person, they don't like that person. I tell everyone, if anyone says anything negative about me and you, put them on the telephone with me right there and see how fast they go the other way. Because see, that's what our community thrives on. They thrives on he say, she say. They don't try to get the real information behind the person. Like somebody say, I don't like Harold Bell. Why you don't like Harold Bell? I don't know. I just don't like him. And that's the kind of things that go on in our community. And man, I have been so blessed that I came up, my grandmother raised us, and she told me one thing that I still remember today, and I still operate that way. Always tell the truth, because a lie will change 1,000 times. The truth never changes. And that's how I have operated, man. So I wanted to do this show because I wanted to be transparent. You hear a whole lot about Doug Williams, Sugar Ray Leonard, John Thompson, and all these great things they're doing. But who helped them? Somebody helped them. It may have not been Harold Bell, but somebody helped them. Did they come back? That's what it's all about, man. And I think of, when I think about the Muhammad Ali legacy, and I see Sports Illustrated has taken over being the standard bearer for Muhammad Ali. They're going to tell us now who our heroes and sheroes should be and going to use Muhammad Ali's name. There's no more Muhammad Ali's out there. He was not perfect. He was flawed, but he was a human being that cared about everybody. And when you see these folks on the cover of Sports Illustrated, when you say, well, who put them there? I think about, you got LeBron James. You know who LeBron James was getting in line behind? That kid with the Denver Nuggets, the Muslim kid. What is his name? I know y'all know. When he starts saying silent prayers and not standing up for the flag, you saw what they did to him. You understand? He stood up before anybody else, man. So how you gonna put LeBron James in front of this kid? You understand? You got to stop and think about that. Jim Brown, he got a Muhammad Ali award. He don't deserve no Muhammad Ali award. He done threw women over balconies. You understand? He done beat up his partner who caught him cheating on the golf course with a golf club bloody. And you gonna say he deserves a Muhammad Ali award? No, he does not. So I'm saying, man, we got to be careful. And I hope some of you read some of those links that I sent you, and how George Solomon, who was the sports editor of the Washington Post, who came along during the John Thompson era, he did a review on his book. And he told lie after lie after lie. And I got it right here on my bulletin board. The story that he was the editor of when he was at the Washington Post. It says, casino executives and John Thompson are aligned. Thompson has land in Las Vegas. There's another story about David Falk, who stole from black athletes. It was John Thompson who put him in position to take money under the table. And Gary, did I expose David Falk in 1990 when he stole millions of dollars from Adrian Dantley? And he's still out there going to locker rooms white today. That's white privilege, man. Why should he be out there stealing from? Can you imagine if he stole from Adrian Dantley? Do you understand how much money he stole from Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan can't even count all the money. And he represents Michael in Nike, his NBA contracts, whatever opportunity. So we got to stop and think, man, who can we trust? And the thing is, we got to take, control ourselves, man. Like, what Gary went on and did, establish black men in America to get at least some of the truth out. And that's what we got to do. We got to stop and think about who are our heroes and sheroes. And I want to say one other thing before I let y'all come in on it. Just think about LeBron James in Cleveland. When that 12-year-old kid, Tamir Rice, got shot down by cops, and he had a water pistol. Activists try to get LeBron James, man, come out and say something. His parents tried to get him to come. He wouldn't say nothing. He was right there with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He didn't say anything till a month later. And talking about, I like to try to be on top of things, and I wasn't on top of this. How you gonna not be on top of this when this shooting of this kid went nationwide? How did you not know about that, man? We had 2 other brothers shot down in Cleveland again days before Christmas, unarmed. Haven't heard a thing from LeBron James, but there he is on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Gary, take it.
Well, you know, the mainstream media is very popular, very powerful, very influential. We're not very literate as a country. Most people get their facts, quote, facts, from the media. And social media, because everyone has social media, makes people really bold. You know, people can say and do a lot of things, and there's not a lot of accountability on it. So, you know, years ago, Mr. Bell, when you had your Inside Sports moniker, I think this is just a theory. You're different in the way that you're one of the few people who's been on the inside with these celebrities, and you know their mindset, and you've gotten to know them over the years and decades, whereas for many of us, we only see what the media will show us. And so that is what becomes believable. So when people hear you shouting from the mountaintops based on what you know with your inside knowledge, they're like, look at that Negro over there. What's he yelling about? But you're on the inside. So you have a unique perspective. And that's, I think, what my theory is. That's why some of the people find you somewhat polarizing, because they don't have that inside track. They don't know what you know. They only know what the media tells us or wants us to know. And so what puzzles me is you've named, I mean, you can name a litany of people, the who's who, but the common thread, which I question, is what is it about folks that don't come back? Because you mentioned that earlier, why either they don't come back or give back. Is that some type of act of courage that they can't come back, or they don't want to come back, or I don't know. I mean, I don't expect an answer here, but I can kick it out, and we're going to have an open forum here about, you know, things that matter as we try to look to 2021 and make sure 2021 is certainly better for us and our community. But certainly I believe that one person can make a difference. Everybody on this panel can make a difference, and we do it anyway. I know Chauncey's down there in Central Florida doing his thing with entertainment and making people and giving people a voice and a platform. Brother Johnson in Alexandria, I mean, CJ through his music, Juanita through her mentoring with kids. We're out there. So what's going on where we could help within our sphere of influence make 21 a better year? I'll stop there and open it up.
Well, I mean, to the question of why don't people come back, and I mean, one of the big question is this, the same reason that the politicians don't work for us is capital. It's because they have too much to lose. It's the money. It's the money has a corrupting influence. And as a lot of people say, when you're Black, even as we alluded to earlier in the Will Smith story, when you're Black with Aunt Viv, you have to work twice as hard. And once you're in those positions of power, you have to work twice as hard just to keep it, and not just because of your Black skin. So once they get to a position like that, there's too much to lose. You get addicted to the money, the lifestyle, the power, having the access for journalists and things like that, while they softball these politicians and people. Even like someone like LeBron James, like his heart might be in the good place, but you can only be so politically engaged and be the best basketball player maybe ever. There's only so much time you can practice and dedicate yourself and your body, and also to be a political spokesperson, which is why Ali was so amazing, and you know how he was able to be on both sides of that. But a lot of these athletes just are not as plugged into the community. They've gotten their money early, they like their money, and they don't want to threaten that money.
Some people are afraid of where they came from.
Say more about that.
They're ashamed. You know, and I listened to Michael when he was talking. You know, it takes a lot of guts to say I came from the ghetto. I came from the projects. A lot of people don't want you to know that. They want you to think they were always affluent.
That's right. Amen. That's right. Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not ashamed of where I came from,
That's
and
right.
I'm not ashamed of what I came through to get where I am.
Q-Ball, you've been out here with a lot of these pro athletes, and Q-Ball, Larry owns a pool room out on Central Avenue, so he deals with folks from the streets on a regular basis, and he knows Sugar Ray Leonard, he knows their brothers. They come through his pool room. Larry, what do you think the problem is, Larry?
You got to unmute again, Larry.
Okay.
There we go. He's there.
Okay.
Okay. Larry, what do you think the problem is? I was telling that, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard and a lot of athletes come out to your pool room on Central Avenue.
No, well, Ray came out here to the pool room that one time with his brother, because Roger used to come in here pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of guys who've been in here, probably like I've had, like Winky Wright. I mean, I know Winky since he was a little kid. I put together a basketball league back in the 80s, and I had a whole bunch of little kids out there, you know, from in the city that's played in it, and Winky was one of them. But I can't, I don't know why, like I say, I mean, I was in the nightclubs. I worked in the nightclubs, and I worked in the VIP rooms, and all the black athletes and entertainers, a whole bunch of them came through there. But they was just like, say, partying. Since I've had a pool room for 16 years, and I haven't probably seen hardly any of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But my pool room is in PG County in one of the poorest parts. I don't have, it's not a real fancy place. I think a lot of them, they still want to be around all the glitter, you know. And we got, I don't know, we got to do some things, just think about some things, make people want to come home and help people, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Take some thought from all of us.
Yeah. I shared something with Harold a couple of days ago, and it was right on this line. Earl Lloyd, the first black playing the NBA, used to come over to my parents' house. His brother and my father were very close friends, and they thought that my father and his brother was more related than him and his brother was. But Earl never really came back or shared his story with us. But right now, and I'm still on the committee, I'm still trying to help him. We got a statue coming in his honor. We got court at T.C. Williams with his name on it. But when you really look behind the surface of it, Earl really never came back and did anything for any young black male in that city that I know of in my age. And I sat across the table at Thanksgiving time while they were drinking and eating when I was a young kid. Never knew that this guy even played in the NBA. I don't think he knew his worth at that, or his value at that moment. Mm-hmm. But I still commend him on going through that door, because he did open the door for a lot of other people. But with that said, I'm looking at also Michael Jordan, how Abe Pollin tricked him into giving up all his stock in the Wizards or what have you. And then at the end of the day, he fired Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan left out of the arena and almost killed somebody because he was so pissed that this guy had played a trick on him. And I think when we talk about assimilationists, they want us to conform and change. And when we get to that point where we're making that money, I think a lot of us forget exactly who we are and what we are, and the foundation that was given to us by our ancestors who sacrificed so much for us to even get to this point. But also I recommend a book that I'm reading right now. It's called Cass. And on one of the chapters is talking about this very same thing, how we play a role in a production, like you would see at a Broadway production, and everybody know their role. But at the end of the day, they know that they want to keep us down in our role, which is just to be person in the cast, but knowing that they need us to make the production go. And I think that a lot of the young Black athletes, male and female, get caught up in trying to get that leading role, which they would never get, you know.
And one of the things, want to stay on that Earl Lord thing, because a lot of, and Michael J., you hit it right on the head. People don't realize Earl never came back and did anything. I was with Earl from the very beginning. What happened with Earl getting the Hall of Fame is because I took the lead. You understand? I had just gotten Willie Wood into the Hall of Fame in 1989 when they ignored his great career in the NFL, and they blackballed him because he turned in some players when he was an assistant coach with the San Diego Chargers. He said, he told on the players and coaches who were doing the drugs. He said, man, y'all can't be doing that. Not on my watch. They blackballed him. He had to end up going to Canada to get a job. He had to come back and be a head coach with the World Football League, where he was the first Black in Canada and in this country. And Earl Lord, they completely ignored him for years. People don't realize when Earl Lord was named the Detroit Pistons head coach after being assistant coach, it was Dave Bing and Bob Lanier who ran him out of there, ran him out. So Earl, you know, was out there in limbo. They let him come and do talks to NBA players, but they never thought about his contribution as being the first Black to play in the NBA. And plus he played on a winning championship team. You know, they never thought about that. So Earl had to come to me and say, man, can you help me get in the Hall of Fame? You know what I had to do? I had to go to the godfather of the NBA, Red Auerbach, and say, Red, will you help me get Earl into the Hall of Fame? He said, yeah, he deserves to be in there. I went to Dick Heller, another white friend with the Washington Times, sports columnist, and we campaigned for Earl Lord to get into the Hall of Fame. I set it up for him to come out to Alexandria, Virginia, where they had an Earl Lord Day. They had an Earl Lord Day. And Al Allos and Sonny Hill and Bob Lanier, all of them came out for that. So when Earl Lord got inducted into the Hall of Fame, you know what he did? He didn't thank Red Auerbach. He didn't thank Dick Heller. He didn't thank Harold Bell. He gave all the credit to his son for getting him in the Hall of Fame. But that's how we are, man. That's how we are. So I understand that. And I was disappointed, not because he didn't give me any credit, but because he didn't give Red any credit. He didn't give Dick Heller any credit. So those are the kind of things behind the scenes, the things that people don't know, like Dave Bing ran him out of Detroit. Dave Bing came to Washington when Casey Jones was coaching and tried to run Casey Jones out of there. So it's these kind of stories, man, that never get told in white media, man. And folks, you can't let people like Casey Jones die, man, and not give him credit for the great things that he did as a human being and as a player and a coach, man, and allow Dave Bing to sit around and take credit for being the mayor of Detroit. When I told him, please, Dave, don't run for mayor. It's a dead-end street. And he wouldn't listen. And he became a guy who's in charge of the city to have the highest bankruptcy in the history of America in a city. So, man, we get there and it's a dollar bill and we think that money make us smart. Money don't make us smart, man.
Yeah, I see we have two new people. I want to make sure they get a voice also. They're not on camera, but they probably are listening, and that is Ben and Edward.
Oh, Ben. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if they want to come on in, just, you know, pop on in here. Juanita, you have anything? And then we can go to Ben.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I agree with Johnson. Like, people don't want you to know their whole story. They don't want you to know where they came from. They would prefer to sit in a space that tells about how I got from that start of beginning to set my career up into how I came to the point that I'm at now. I have a position. My position is, first of all, you never know who know people. You never know who's in the rooms, in the back rooms with people. But, you know, look, You can't use my story against me. I'm not gonna let you do it. Why am I not gonna let you do it? Because I can talk about my own shit. I can tell you, see, there's no shame in me coming from here, getting from one place, one point to the next. The shame is not in what I did in between that time. The shame is not the shame is not me wanting to acknowledge that it took that particular experience or that particular journey to get me to this point. So you're not going to. A lot of people don't want to talk, don't want to come back. They don't want to do anything that's offensive to the white community, the white media, the white money, the bankers, the this and that. They don't want to do anything because they have skeletons in their closet that they don't want to talk about. First of all, that's my thing. So you got skeletons. See, my skeletons are not gonna be my downfall because if you bring it up before you can get to the second sentence, I'm gonna tell you the whole story. I'm gonna shut you down. So there's a fear of image being destroyed, in my opinion, with a lot about black successful people. You know, they don't. So, you know, my wish for the new year is what it always is. You know, truth will set you free. Tell your own story before somebody else does. Be okay with surviving your story, and be okay with letting your story become a message of hope as opposed to a message of shame. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Ben, want to bring you in here. We've been talking about holding grudges. We've been the bad, negative aspect of it. We've also been talking about 2021, where we need to go and why athletes don't give back. We want to bring you in. You've been here for a few minutes, so if you just take yourself off and mute, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, Harold, Gary, everyone else. And I've been ripping and running, so y'all got to excuse me. I'm trying to cool off. I've been running back up and down the steps. But what I care for 2021, as far as holding grudges, that's to me almost like a death sentence. Holding grudges is stressful, and it takes away from your life. That's just the truth. So, and Harold knows me, so I like to keep things relaxed. Life is stressful as it is. But as far as 2021, I don't want to see a duplication of continuous marches that we've seen from the 60s all the way up to today. And what I want to see now is some action, like getting some civil rights commission or civil rights group as part of the Department of Justice. I'd like to see us petition that. I don't agree with the terminology of defund the police, but I do agree with reforming the police system and the justice system, because quite frankly, the police all the way up to the judge, it's a racket. I got locked up at 16, something I never told you, Harold. I got locked up at 16 years old for a charge I didn't do. Taken through 2 juries over a 2-year period and found guilty of a lesser charge because they couldn't find a gun. It involved a gun, and was facing 5 to 20 at 16. That's not a comfortable feeling. And then being put on probation for 2 to 5 years after that, and found guilty by the second jury. So I know that this system doesn't work for us. It never has. It's the Department of Just Us and not Justice. So that's where I am for 2021. As far as on a personal note, Harold knows I'm involved in the movie industry. We have a film that we have, some celebrities. We're trying to get them to finish signing up, and we'll be dealing with a particular time in history that needs to be brought to the screen. Spike Lee has one coming out this month. He has one coming out this month that's really unique, where a family is getting, a guy's getting even with the police department, killing his son. It reminds me of the time when we had the movie Spook Was Set by the Door. And I know you all remember that. That movie, and I don't know if I still got the book. I used to have the book someone wanted to borrow. I don't know if I ever got it back. But that story is also being put into a movie. So, and then you mentioned about sports. Some of these athletes, it hasn't been said publicly that I know of, but we have more multi-millionaires and leading up to billionaires than we ever had in the history of our life in this country. If we were to take a poll, we'd find at least 500 or more wealthy Black celebrities who can really help pool some money, and we can do open up some of the centers like LeBron James and someone else, another athlete, I can't think of the name right now, is doing. And have, consultants like Harold, you'd be good at that. As a consultant,
I got 32 millionaires. Ben, I got 32 millionaires that came through me. 32. So see, what you said is right. Ben, tell them about you. Ben, tell them about your relationship with Muhammad Ali. Tell them about your relationship with Muhammad Ali.
Well, I met Muhammad Ali. Yeah, I met Ali through the Muslim community when I was about 19 years old. And from that time on, Muhammad Ali and I became friends. I started a security and transportation business based on our relationship. And because of that relationship with Muhammad Ali, I had ended up having clients like Jerry Bruckheimer and a whole slew of celebrities and foreign dignitaries. It took me all the way to the point that I was working with the Secret Service. Many of the motorcades you all saw in the city, back under Clinton, Bush, and a little bit under Obama. I lost a lot of business on Obama, quite frankly. But under the two previous administrations before Obama, I was supplying vehicles for the Secret Service motorcades, but that all was an extension of my friendship with Muhammad Ali. And because of that, I mean, my whole life, I was with Ali about 6 or 7 months at his home in Arizona before he passed away. Lonnie, his wife, told me to come on down. I thought he was ready to pass away because she told me, you need to come past. So I jumped on a plane immediately and went there, and he was good. We just watched a cowboy movie. He likes cowboy flicks. I like cowboy movies. We watched the cowboy movies and ate lunch. Then 7 months later, of course, history was that, he went home. God called him home. But I've been knowing Ali, like I said, since about I think I originally met him maybe in 74. And over the years, we became friends, traveled with him. Not so much travel with him, but I met him in states when they come. I would meet him there in Florida, DC, Baltimore, Chicago, Arizona, of course, and Kentucky, and a few other places. And so, yeah, Muhammad Ali and I became good friends.
Okay.
You got Ed over there.
Yeah, Ed Sargent, are you you want to get in on this?
I know that name, Ed Sargent.
Well, okay.
Ed, are you still there? Okay, Ed must have left. But Ben, we was talking about, I want to just hit on this before we get out of here, about how Sports Illustrated have taken over who's going to be honored with the Muhammad Ali Legacy Award. And I don't think there's no one that knows Muhammad Ali better than you. I met Muhammad Ali in 1967 on Howard University. And I was telling folks, Ben, is that they are honoring people, man, that Muhammad Ali has to be turned over his grave, man. You understand? Yeah. Because we always allow them, Ben, to tell us who our heroes and sheroes should be. We don't need no Sports Illustrated or the Washington Post to tell us who our heroes are. We know who's coming back in the community. I know you know and I know. So when I see them put out Sports Illustrated and they got LeBron James' name picture on the front page, I said, hold it, man. He got to get in line behind a lot of brothers. A lot of brothers. So that's what I was talking about with Muhammad Ali. He was not perfect. He had flaws, but he was such a great human being, man.
But if I may ask you too, two people LeBron James got to get behind is Jim Brown and gosh, help me out, Russell, basketball player.
Bill Russell, all that.
Bill Russell. Yeah. age is catching up, but Bill Russell and Jim Brown. Every year we used to get together in Kentucky when Muhammad was living at the Muhammad Ali Center and the event there. And Bill Russell and Jim Brown were always there every single year, even till Muhammad Ali passed. They came there every year. So Bill Russell, Jim Brown, I'm trying to think of who else. In fact, you listed some people, quite frankly, Harold, in the evening.
It was a lot of people, man, that you know, that were there for him, because he attracted people, because good people and honest people, man, wanted to be around him. Even the crooks wanted to be around him. So
oh, yeah.
that was no problem. But my thing, as we get out of here, because we're running out of time, I just want to say, I want to thank everybody, Gary. Well, I don't know where Ed went. Ed shows up and he disappears. But hey, let's give everybody a minute and close out and how we feel about going into 2021. That's about what we got. As about a minute for everybody. Gary, you take it from there.
All right. I'm going to go on my screen. I'm going to get CJ.
Yeah, CJ is back.
We're going to get you. Where are we going for 2021? You got about 45 seconds. 2021. What's your vision? Where are we going? Or where do you want to go?
Where are we going? I mean, we're continuing to fight the same battles. Unfortunately, like I said, we're fighting for healthcare right now. There's a floor vote to try to confirm Nancy Pelosi, and progressives trying to get a floor vote on Medicare for all. There's, you know, a pandemic still and people struggling, and the government basically ignoring people's needs. There's still going to be rent due. There's still going to be income inequality and corruption at its highest level. So we're doing the same thing that we did in 2020, which is fight for our material wealth and, you know, right to exist and survive in this oligarchy that is the United States.
Okay. Chauncey.
I just want to put out my hand to help, because I'm not getting younger, even though I think I am. I'm not. And I just want to get some young people involved, because I think I hit on something in the entertainment world. It's been somewhat untapped. And I just want to get some young people involved to do some of the things that I need done. Gary, you saw one of them.
Yeah.
And that was the new young violinist that I have. And the young girl, she's in her 20s and she's dynamite. All she needs is a helping hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's good, because that's some of the things I think sometimes we underestimate our own influence and how much we can do and what we do, how it helps others. And so just, I mean, I try to do it all the time. And sometimes people come back to me years later and say, hey, you know, you may not remember me, but you did this for me. But all of us should never underestimate our influence. Let's go to Juanita.
Y'all know me, I got a smile on my face. I'm
You got 30
always
seconds.
good in everything. That doesn't mean my eyes are closed, but you know, I do have a very strong spiritual background, and I just believe that things are going to happen with and without my permission. So I'm going to just show up where I can, fit in when I get in, and be kind. That's me.
Okay. All right, Michael Johnson. We're going to go to Michael, Larry, and then Ben. So you may as well start unmuting now.
Okay.
What I'm proposing to do is continue to keep a matchbook with me and take that one match, because I know that one match can start a fire. So I'm not going to let them turn me around in 2021. I want to make sure I continue to go forward and be that one match that starts the fire.
Okay, love that analogy. Larry.
Well, like I said, one thing I'm focused on is my diet, and try to teach a lot of people something about just trying to eat healthy and take care of themselves. And I mean, I still live in the neighborhood, so I try to reach out to people that's there, and hopefully start something there.
Okay, I thank you. You talked about eating healthy and all that other stuff. I just put myself out there on Facebook minutes before the show. I posted some before and after pictures on my Facebook page. So you'll see it before and after. I'm trying to inspire people too. Me and Mark Clark and I, we got it going on, trying to get people to eat healthy. Ben, it's up to you. You got 30 seconds.
Okay, real quick, Larry, it was good to see you. I didn't know you were on. So good to see you.
Good to see you, Ben.
All right. The other thing, I'm gonna put an after picture. I'm not putting it before, but I'm working on it.
That's okay. They'll go.
Back in sync, so I'm gonna put an after picture on. But as far as 2020, rest of 2020, 21 rather, I do plan on doing more community work. I got some things lined up to do, hopefully get this film done, and then from that, parlay that into some more community work.
Okay. Keep me, particularly through Harold or just me directly. I can get you later. Let's see if we can help you promote that film when it gets out there on our platform.
Okay.
Last chance, Edward Sargent, last chance before we go back to Harold Bell. Go. There we go.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. My mantra this year Happy New Year, everybody. My mantra is this: for our people, whatever's good, for all of us as one, let's get it done in 2021. Whatever's good.
All right. Harold Bell, close us out, Mr. Bell.
I just want to say, man, let's not forget, man, that we are still right in the midst of this pandemic, that 350,000 plus people, U.S. citizens, are dead, man. And it's because, man, there's leadership that could have cared less. And that is a sad, sad commentary right there. So remember, as we go out of here and go into 2021, don't wait for Joe Biden to save us. We got to save ourselves, man. We got to save ourselves. We got to come together. So I just want to say, I want to thank everybody. And I want to say this once again, National Association of Black Journalists, thank you for honoring me. Because you know what makes that so good? Don't have to worry about Sports Illustrated honoring me. When your people, your own people honor you, that means more than anything from the Washington Post, from the Washington Times, Sports Illustrated. We got to honor each other. And that's the key. I want to say that, as I always say, that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. I want to thank my lovely wife for 52 years for bringing us together. That's it.
All right, everybody, that concludes our show. We'll probably have this show up on blackmeninamerica.com tomorrow morning, if not sooner. Please stay safe, and we'll see you next week on Speak the Truth. We're out of here.
We're at the point of our program where we are ready to introduce our honorees for the class of 2020. With our first honoree, here's David Aldridge.
Ray, thank you very much. Now, our first recipient made a way out of no way to become a media force and community leader in his native Washington, D.C. Harold Bell has been on the air from AM radio in the 60s to his current Facebook Live show for more than 5 decades. When the late legendary Petey Green gave Bell 5 minutes on his radio show to talk sports in the late 1960s, a career was born. And he took those 5 minutes and created his own show, Inside Sports. It was the first of its kind in DC, going beyond the scores and hero talk you normally heard on the air to speak plainly about race and incorporate what was then called message music into a sports talk show. Black athletes got a chance to talk on Harold's show. His guests were a who's who of national and local stars: Jim Brown, Sugar Ray Leonard, Julius Erving, others. And in 1974, after Muhammad Ali came back from his knockout of George Foreman to regain the heavyweight championship, the first interview he gave when he got back to the United States was with Harold. That's a hell of a thing, Harold says, for a man to go through a fight like that, and when he gets back, he calls this little talk show host. It wasn't the end of Harold's career. A year later, he became the first Black to host and produce a television sports special in prime time, a half hour on the NBC affiliate in DC. His guest, Muhammad Ali. But Harold did much more than host people on his show. He was an advocate, championing the candidacies of people like Earl Lloyd, the first black player in the NBA, and DC's Willie Wood, who played on the great Vince Lombardi teams in the 1960s for a Hall of Fame consideration. And in no small part due to Harold's efforts, both of those men are now in their respective sporting. And also for 4 decades, Harold and his wife Hattie held Christmas gift drives and parties every year so that kids in the area who otherwise may not get a toy to unwrap on Christmas morning got a gift to take home. Mr. Bell said he was touched when he heard NABJ was giving him a Pioneer Award. I had to stop and think, Harold said. I've been giving some of these brothers and sisters hell for years. Now, some of it may have been deserved, but all of this Pioneer Award is well-deserved and long overdue. So please welcome Harold Bell to our stage.
Thank you, Jason. Take us on the way, as I was saying. When I first got this email, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. You know, I read it down there, and I finally realized that it was on the one because there was David Aldridge's name at the end of it. First thing I want to say, though, man, all the glory goes to God, man. I want to thank the folks at the top instead of waiting till the end. I want to thank my mother and grandmother for encouraging me to always tell the truth. My grandmother told me, said, Harold, a lie will change 1,000 times, the truth never changes. But see, they forgot to tell me the consequences that waited for me at the end of telling the truth. There's a lot of consequences there. First, I'd like to thank my high school coach, Dave Brown, who had the foresight to send me to Tobacco Road to play for Clarence Big House games, football, basketball scholarship. Then once back in D7 to talk sports on his show. And then there was the pioneer U.S. Marshal in charge and D.C. Superior Court Judge Luke C. Moore. And Inside Sports came about. You know, there was Muhammad Ali, Red Auerbach, Bert Sugar, Ozzie Newsome, Johnny Sample, Lee Jones, Ed Wells, James Young, Andrew Johnson, John Turk Edwards, George Solomon, Maggie Linton, Jackie Jones, Francis Murphy of the Afro, and last but not least, my wife of 52 years who had to put up with me telling the truth. You know, one does not wake up in the morning and say, I think I want to be a pioneer. I don't think so. You know, you wake up and I say, well, I think I might want to be a doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief, but not a pioneer. All this pioneering came accidentally, you know, accidentally. Inside Sports debuted in 1972 on WOOK radio, and sports talk has never been the same. Muhammad Ali made me the chosen one in 1974. He returned from Zaire, Africa, after the biggest fight in his boxing career and called me for an exclusive one-on-one interview. See, I was just a nobody trying to be somebody, and the heavyweight, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world comes back from across the water and calls Harold Bell. That today is still amazing to me, that I'm lying home in the bed. He had promised me in Chicago, since I didn't want to go to Zaire with him because I was scared to fly across the ocean. He said, okay, well, when I get back, you'll be the first one that I call. Well, I ain't pay no attention to the champ because he's always talking to us. He might say anything. So I flew back to Washington, D.C., went to Constitution Hall to watch the fight on closed circuit TV. And man, did he fool everybody. He shocked the world when he knocked out Big George in the 8th round. 5 nights later, I'm lying in the bed with my wife, and it's raining like hell outside, and I'm sleeping good. And the phone rings, and Hattie said the phone. So I pick up the phone. I said, hello, who's calling? He said, let me speak to Harold Bell. I said, man, who's calling? He said, fool, this is the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. I sat straight up in the bed. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was dreaming. I said, hey, champ, what's happening? He said, you still want to do that interview? I said, yeah, man. He said, well, bring your camera crew to New York in the morning. This is the hotel that I'm staying at, and we'll do the interview. I ain't had no camera crew. I ain't had no car, no money or nothing. But I got on the phone and called my partner, Rodney Brown, and they just happened to be at PBS doing a show for Black History Month. And I told Rodney, I said, Rodney, Muhammad Ali just called me. He said, fool, ain't no Muhammad Ali called you. I said, man, he just called me. He said, what's the problem? I said, he wants us to come to New York in the morning for the interview. He said, okay. I said, man, I ain't got no money, no car. He said, hold it. Will is here with me. I got the credit card. Will got the car, and PBS got the cameras. So they show up at my apartment at midnight with the cameras from PBS, and we roll out to New York, get to the hotel, ask for some coffee and donuts, and I called Muhammad Ali. He said, where are you? I said, I'm downstairs. He said, come on up. And we went up on the elevator, and there he's standing in the hallway, combing his hair. He said, didn't I tell you I was going to knock that sucker out? Didn't I tell you I was going to knock him out? So we said, we laughed, and we went in, and man, I shot one of the most impressive one-on-one interviews with the champ. And I tell you, it's still looking good today. I don't know what kind of cameras PBS had, but that was an out-of-sight interview. And I just want to thank, man, this guy for putting me on the map. Because it was he, Red Auerbach, and Bert Sugar, the people that you didn't have to go through no agents to call. I could call them on a telephone and they'd pick up. And that's where it all started. I looked at the papers that I wrote for, the New Observer, Afro America, the New York Amsterdam News, and Washington Post. And I even wrote for Bleacher Report. As soon as they start paying people, all of a sudden they want to censor me. So that's what happens. And that's one thing I want to say, man, is that we got to get our own media outlets. There's an old saying, until the lions hire their own public relations firm, the hunter will always be declared the winners. You hear what I'm saying? And, I'm going to end this by saying I got another big surprise. When I got an email from this guy, he said, Harold, congratulations. Your archives are valuable, and should be given the broadest possible exposure. Your discs and videos of your programs belong in the new Smithsonian Institution of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. A wing of the new museum will be dedicated to the struggle in sports and will be titled Leveling the Playing Field. Your work was a major force over the years at leveling the playing field, especially in terms of the struggle to define and project our truth, signed by Dr. Harry Edwards. So that right there, man, says I belong here. And I want to thank, the National Association of Black Journalists, man. I want to thank David. I want to thank Maggie Linton. I want to thank Jackie Jones for believing in me and putting up with me, man. Because I'm 82 years old. I never thought that this would happen. Thank you.